Next on our agenda is PCS for CS for HB 1085, Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles by General Maney. I knew if I said general, that'd get your attention. Members of Maney, you're recognized to explain your bill.
With enthusiasm. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, sir. All right. Appreciate that. Liven us up in here.
Members of the committee, this is a bill which you may have heard parts of before. It has two amendments, but it's a bill. It is the agency bill for DHSMV. You've got a great bill analysis in your packet. It lists the main points of what the agency is trying to do. There's only been one provision that's drawn particular questions before, and with your permission, I think I'll address that. And then if you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer those. One of the proposals in this bill is to change the color on the biographical print on the front of a driver's license from black to red. Down in the left-hand corner, you all won't see it on your driver's licenses, but in the bottom left corner, or maybe it's the bottom right corner, there's a little map of the state of Florida, and in it, it may have a couple of letters. SO for sexual offender, SO for, or pulling a blank, a P for a predator, sexual predator. That request has drawn some questions. Already on the driver's license, that shows up in black ink. This bill would change the biographical information to red. It is the least intrusive way and the best way under court rulings to notify law enforcement and the public that whoever is presenting the license is in fact a convicted sexual predator. It's totally unlike the Louisiana case or the Alabama case. And the courts have said that it needs to be the least intrusive way, and that the public does have the state does have an interest in designating who are sexual predators or sexual offenders. I'll answer any other questions on the other.
Representative Maney have explained his bill. Members are the questions of the sponsor. Representative Gottlieb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rep. Maney, that's the one portion of the bill I guess I want to ask you questions about. I've heard, but I haven't yet had the chance to see the case law that you're referencing. What exactly does the case law say that we shouldn't do that this bill is doing?
You're recognized. Thank
you for that question. The case law says it has to be the least intrusive way. And I don't remember which state did it which way. Louisiana and Alabama, one of them said sexual offender, the other one said convicted sexual offender. The words are not on the Florida license, just the letters. And the courts have indicated that letters or identifying numbers are the better way to do it.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it seems to me that if we're already doing that, we're doing it in black. By changing it to red or scarlet, if you will, it seems like it's more of a scarlet letter, and it's not the least intrusive way and may violate the Eighth Amendment as a cruel and unusual punishment. Does the case law, and again, I haven't read it, so does the case law address that in any way, shape, or form?
You're recognized.
The federal court said that the state does have a compelling interest in marking them. And the reason that the state is changing the color of the biographical information is so that law enforcement officers or people like prospective landlords can know, as it is, if you hold your driver's license between your thumb and forefinger when you present it, you can literally cover up the 2 letters on the Florida license plate. So the whole effort is to try to get around that problem while still using the least intrusive way possible.
Representative Gottlieb.
Wouldn't a landlord, since that's the example, wouldn't a landlord typically just take a copy of the driver's license to have on file?
Representative Maney.
They may, I mean, I really can't speculate what any given landlord would do.
One final question.
Final question.
Other than that kind of a housing situation, are there any other examples that you're aware of where somebody gives their driver's license that the member of the public would need to know that the person is a registered sex offender or a predator?
Recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And thanks for the question. The short answer is yes. If an officer pulls a vehicle over, for instance, for a simple traffic infraction, and there's an adult male and a small child of, I guess, either sex, this way the officer, by seeing the red print, will know that the person is a sexual offender, and they can then be concerned to find out more, whether trafficking's going on, whether it's a relative, or what the situation is.
Representative Gottlieb in the bonus round.
Thank you, sir. One follow-up, is that what you're saying? Okay, I wasn't sure I heard correctly. Sorry, Rep. Maney, but your answer just triggered one additional question is, to my understanding, when an officer pulls somebody over, they can do a David check or an FCIC, NCIC, which is typically can come back within minutes. Wouldn't they be able to do that and know from there, first of all, get a greater history and a greater amount of detail as to who the person is that's in front of them?
Representative Maney.
That is the protocol that officers are supposed to follow. That doesn't mean that all officers follow that protocol, particularly in the less formal, smaller communities, where officers are used to treating people a little differently than they do in the big cities.
Rep. Cassell, do you have a question?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Maney, don't Florida driver's license currently, in addition to the SO and the SP identification, isn't there something when the driver's license is actually swiped or in the stripe of the driver's license, there's also an additional identifier so people are on notice of who these individuals are?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's a good question. I don't know, but I'll check and get back to you. And I'm happy to show you pictures of an Alabama license with the black letters on everything else and red for the sexual predator. I mean, if you look at the 2 driver's license examples, Florida is clearly less intrusive. But I'll check on that for you.
Red Gottlieb, final question.
Thank you, sir. Actually, may I be permitted to? Thank you, Chair. For purposes of this bill, is a conviction also a withheld adjudication, or does somebody have to be adjudicated guilty?
You're recognized.
They have to be convicted, adjudicated guilty.
And final question, thank you, Chair. Would this encapsulate somebody who is perhaps convicted but a Romeo and Juliet offender?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In all honesty, I don't know that answer, but I will check on that also. Mr. Chairman, this is kind of like being a judge where the lawyer says, just one more question.
I understand. I won't have any comment on that. Representative Maney, we have an amendment. Representative Chusky. Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm just trying to understand, if we already have the license marked, why do we want to mark it like this instead? I mean, has there been an example of why it's necessary to change this marking? And do we just do it with sexual predators, or do we do it with people who were convicted of murder? Do we do it with people who had DUIs?
Yeah, I think he answered that question, but I'll let you go ahead and answer it again if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is only for convicted sexual predators and sexual offenders. And it does not deal with, I don't think it deals with Romeo and Juliet, but I'm going to find that out.
Follow up.
Yeah, and what was the impetus to doing this? I will say as a landlord, you do take a copy of the driver's license, so I guess I'm trying to understand what problem is this trying to solve if the marcation is already on the driver's license?
You're recognized.
I think the main problem is not everybody is as careful as you are, whether they're law enforcement or landlords.
Good. Anybody else? All right, we have an amendment by Representative Maney, barcode A1, and you are recognized to explain your amendment, sir. I realize you just came from another committee, so take your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amendment A1 clarifies provisions in existing law dealing with dropping specialty license plates which don't have a tremendous public demand, dropping them from the program. This bill clarifies that state colleges, like state universities, are not subject to that provision.
Questions on the amendment? No questions on the amendment. Is there public testimony? Yes, there is. University of North Florida, Raymond Walker is waving in support. Jen Goen from FGUA, FCGU, I guess that's Florida Gulf Coast Community, okay. Waving in support. I'm sorry, I couldn't make it out. Rachel Whitbrock from University of West Florida is waving in support. Thank you. Members, we're in debate on the amendment. Is there debate on the amendment? Yes. Yes. Not on the amendment? Okay. Representative Maney, you're recognized to close on the amendment.
Waive closed, Mr. Chair.
Having waived closed, all in favor of the amendment say yay. Yay. All opposed say no. So the amendment is adopted without objection. We have another amendment. Representative Maney, barcode A2. You're recognized to explain that amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we get to the bill in chief, you'll see that one of the provisions requires law enforcement to, in the future, 2025, I think, to submit all motor vehicle crash reports electronically to the department. Amendment A2 says if the big bill passes, they'll have to submit it in a way that's open, non-proprietary, so that anybody can access the crash report. That is the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, members. Questions on the amendment? Seeing no questions on the amendment, is there public testimony on the amendment? None. Debate on the amendment. Members, we're in debate on the amendment. Seeing no debate, Representative Maney, you're recognized to close on the amendment.
Waive closed, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor of the amendment say yay. Yay. All opposed say no. So the amendment is adopted without objection. We're back on the bill as amended, and we're in public testimony on the bill. Is there public testimony on the bill? Yes, there is. Raymond Walker, University of Florida, is a proponent. He waves in support. Drew Minor, Tax Collectors, Inc., is waving in support. Leslie Doogie, waving in support. Enterprise. Members, we're in debate. Is there debate on the bill as amended? Representative Gottlieb, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's many aspects of this bill that are obviously a very good bill and deserving of an upvote. I'm not sure I can get there today because and again, I haven't seen the case law, but I do think that having the lettering on the driver's license in black is likely the least intrusive means. And while there's clearly a compelling governmental interest in identifying the offenders to those who are going to be examining the driver's license, I think that we have to sit here and we have to balance the good and the bad. And as I called it a scarlet letter. I think that that's exactly what it is. And, you know, one of the things we always try to do is we talk about integrating people back into society who have served their sentence. And this is, you know, essentially if somebody's served their sentence off probation, this is condemning them to a life sentence by labeling them, no matter where they go, whether they're renting a car. And there's just no connection between necessarily renting a car and having this on your driver's license. I do understand your example of where somebody might be living, but I think, you know, I could probably give numerous examples of where this is really irrelevant to what somebody's doing with their driver's license and therefore is not the least intrusive means. And for that reason, I can't support the bill, and I apologize. Thank you.
Representative F. Robinson, you are recognized in debate.
Thank you, Chair. And pretty much what Representative Gottlieb said, it's very concerning because we're trying to get them back into society. And as he stated, they're renting a car, they're going to the doctor, anything that they're actually going to have to show their license for, this now is going to be a bigger problem. And I believe when you brought up the information about our police officers, I believe that's their job. They're supposed to know and look at that information. So I don't think we should make a change in their case. And when we're talking about homeowner or people that's renting and things like that, people that do background checks and do things like that, that's what they're looking for. So I don't think putting that red letter on there is beneficial. And I do believe that if we're trying to get people back into the community, that having that red is not going to be beneficial. So I don't think I can support
Rep. Cassell, you're recognized in debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Mooney. To echo everyone else's sentiments, you know, I'm a former assistant state attorney. I started my legal career at the state attorney's office, so prosecution of crimes and making sure that the most serious crimes and those individuals are prosecuted is very important to me. But I also recognize and understand the importance of giving people opportunity once they've served their sentence. And when you are dealing with sex offenders, yes, absolute, in my opinion, the most heinous crimes that people can commit, especially in the event we're dealing with children. But if you're getting to a place where these people have served their sentence, followed through with their probation, the driver's license already has, in my opinion, the least restrictive means necessary from a constitutional standpoint. Police officers are already aware. These individuals already have to register, are limited in places that they can live, where they can go. So to now add in red lettering when it already is on the stripe of the driver's license, the lettering is already on the driver's license. I just think it's overreach and it's unnecessary, and there isn't any information that I have seen that is actually going to prevent further crimes from happening. It's just going to prevent these people from being given that second opportunity to integrate into societies. So I'm not there today. Maybe we can work on this before it gets to the House floor, but I will be a no today.
Vice Chair Garrison, you're recognized in debate.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Representative Maney. I know we're focusing on just one small portion of a comprehensive bill, but I do want to support the efforts made to heighten awareness in those particular instances. Now, you and I have had some conversations, I know, in the past. Personally, I think it should be expanded to include, different definitions under 775084, such as violent career criminals, three-time violent offenders, things of that nature. When you have folks who reach a certain criteria to where you have ongoing concerns for the public for certain, safety designations, there comes a point where you have to have that done, and your bill attempts to do that. Certainly, your reputation for fairness and probity is well regarded within this chamber, and I thank you for doing this. I think it's a good public safety measure, and I'm proud to support it.
Representative Maney, you're recognized to close.
Waive closed, Mr.
Having waived closed, Missy, will you please call the roll?
Representatives Andrade. Yes. Botana.
Yes.
Brackett. Buchanan. Yes. Cassell.
No.
Cheney.
Yes.
Escamani.
No.
Garrison.
Yes.
Gottlieb.
No.
Hunchofsky.
No.
Killebrew.
Yes, ma'am.
Lopez.
Yes.
Placencia.
Yes.
Robinson.
No.
Schoaf. Smith. Yes. Stevenson.
Yes.
Tomko. Trudeau,
Yes.
Chair Payne.
Yes.
13 yeas, 5 nays.
Members, by your vote, show PCS for CS for HB 1085 reported favorably with committee substitute. Congratulations.